Good evening, Hall of Fame Dynasty members. Get back. I actually have a very special guest tonight. This would be my wife, Cecilia. So she's here. She's joining us tonight. She was interested in what I've been doing. She knows I kind of hang out by myself for a while and talk to random people on the internet, basically. So we have week 9 of the 2019 season to talk about tonight. We've got NHL, NBA to review. Trying to get through this. Obviously, we've got a lot going on with baseball. We've got team preview for the Houston Nationals coming up later this week. So let's dig into hockey very quickly, as she can't believe what she's seeing, apparently. Poking you.
I'm just gonna drink my coffee.
That's fine. So, anyways, let's get on with the show for tonight. Let's see. I always space on this. I have it. Okay, it's up. So, anyways, to start with hockey, league news for week 21. Not a real lot of big news for the waiver wire. A lot of churning still going on, but the biggest thing that we have for this week is a lot of injuries, actually. So my Chicago Blackhawks have lost Josh Morrissey likely for the season, as he's not expected to come back until April. It's an upper body injury. It's a decent blow to my blue line, unfortunately, with him going down. It does open a spot to try and rotate some people in if I find a guy. But luckily, Morrissey's young. He should be back for next year. And in a dynasty, that's always great to have, but sucks for this year in a championship possible run. Next, Colorado has actually gotten hit hard by injuries recently, losing Derek Stepan for 4 to 6 weeks due to a lower body injury. And then Matt Zuccarello has been out for a while, but it looks like he could return before the end of March. That would be a great addition back to the Colorado Avalanche. They've been winning anyway, so it really doesn't matter, but it does make them stronger, and I'm sure they would like to have him back in their lineup. And then finally, we do have Chris and his Vegas Golden Knights. They've been missing William Carrier and Kyle Palmieri. Injuries have piled up a little bit for them as well. They've been on a good win streak, and it will matter going into week 22 as well for the final regular season week. Remember, this is the last week before playoffs. We actually have a lot going on. So mentioning that, why don't we look at the playoff field as of right now? Currently at number 1, and with their win this week, they have number 1 pretty much sealed up with the Colorado Avalanche and Keith. Once again, he's going to have a top playoff seed going into the playoffs, just like he did for baseball and football. What?
It looks like a Cubs logo.
It's Colorado. I mean, I do see the Cubs recognition. I always thought it used to be like some weird thing, because I've seen it where it's a flag, but it's Colorado.
I think they've had too much weed. That just looks like a Cubs logo.
You can speak up. It's fine if they hear you.
No.
Yes. Actually, I'm going to pull up chat because I'm really curious, because Chris and Keith usually are the ones that are the hectic people, or hecklers. There we go, not hectic. But obviously, Colorado Avalanche, Keith is looking for the bye week once again. He got it in baseball. He got it in football. He's going for the three-peat there. And now at number 2, I started already. And coming in at number 2, we do have the Chicago Blackhawks right now with the second bye week spot. It's going to come down to week 22 for my Chicago Blackhawks taking on the Vegas Golden Knights, and that makes week 22 really interesting. I was not talking actually I kind of was at the beginning. So join in. Somebody post a link, so thank you. Anyways, Blackhawks have the number 2 spot right now. Once again, they are facing the Vegas Golden Knights and Chris. So I'm prepared for a really good week 22. Next at 3 and 4, we have the Anaheim Mighty Ducks and the Vegas Golden Knights that I just previously mentioned. These two teams have been in their same spots for the last 4 or 5 weeks. It's been this way. The Ducks would need, I don't think they even have the tiebreaker at this moment. They don't have a chance to get bumped up because of their division. And obviously, Jared is not happy sitting behind Keith, but maybe he'll be able to upset him in the playoffs once again, just like in football. Vegas Golden Knights are taking on the Chicago Blackhawks week 22. I know Chris has been talking a lot of shit. He says it's rigged already because he only has 59 starts supposedly this week. I don't think it's going to matter. I think it's going to be a good matchup. And the Vegas Golden Knights have a number 4 seed at this point. Coming in at 5 and 6 are the Carolina Hurricanes and the Nashville Predators.
That's not a hurricane.
Yeah, then what is it?
It's an infected eye.
Not an infected eye.
It's an infected eye. Like, that's what it looks like. I'm like a weird, deranged saber-tooth tiger that got dropped off the edge of a cliff when it was a cub.
I guess. That's one way of looking at it.
But the ears are all wrong.
It's a hurricane. I forgot to use the other logo that we have, which is it's a hockey stick holding up flags. It's much cooler. You'll see it here in a bit.
It looks like an infection.
So we have the Carolina Hurricanes, who are obviously sitting in a division with the New York Rangers and the Minnesota Wild. So they've been able to beat up on those two teams. And then we have Kevin still holding on to that number 6. Why are you saying fuck your own team, Kevin? I'm very confused.
Because it looks dumb. I would say, yeah, the Predators are from Tennessee too, aren't they?
Yeah.
Okay,
Nashville.
yeah, then fuck them.
Why?
Because no, I remember growing up there sometimes. Like, we would go and see them, and they sucked.
Okay.
Like, all Tennessee teams suck. Like, forever. Okay?
But they don't now.
It doesn't matter. Look at the logo. The logo sucks. So therefore,
the Preds look cool.
It's
a saber-tooth tiger.
It looks like it got dropped off a cliff.
No, it doesn't. The saber-tooth tiger. So we have the Nashville Predators, and Kevin's holding on to the playoff spot. This would be the first time he's made the playoffs since our inaugural baseball season. So the only team that can really step up at this point are the Minnesota Wild and the LA Kings. Yes. Although it's going to be very hard because the Preds obviously have the easy week this week, taking on Vic and his New York Rangers. I expect the Preds to win that one, but we'll get into that later when we get to the preview for week 22.
You're welcome, person.
So last week in week 21, starting off, we had the New York Rangers taking on the LA Kings. So this is why I have her here. So I want to see, who do you think won this matchup? Because you don't know anything about any of our teams. You don't know anything about the stats that I put up. Who do you think wins?
This is so dumb. You're making me pick this like I pick football teams.
So?
And you know I pick them in the dumbest fucking way possible.
It's fun, though. I want to see if you can predict it.
The only sport I can logistically talk about is baseball. The rest of it is just stupid shit.
We'll have you on for that then. So come on, pick one. Who do you think won? The Kings or the Rangers?
Are more organized military branch versus Kings, which is a Chicago gang full of punks and idiots. I'm going to say Rangers.
Well, you'd be wrong, because if you listen to what I said, the Rangers suck. Vic has a problem with winning any games. I think he has 4 wins on the season, and this was not one of them. I did expect you to win the last 3 weeks, and I guess I was wrong with that. That is the commissioner's curse for you. I knew it was going to happen in one sport. It looks like it's happened to you, Kevin, in this one. So the Kings did win by over 100 points. And with that, I mean, we all kind of saw this coming. We knew Barnes was setting up his team, and we know that the Rangers really don't care. And so that brings the Rangers to 4-17, and the LA Kings up to 7-14. The LA Kings are still pushing for that final playoff spot, Kevin. So you better watch out. You better set your lineup. You were the one who said you wanted to be out here. So the Rangers scored 212 points from their skaters, obviously outclassed by the Kings, who hit over a 300-point mark. As you can see, a lot of it came from the fact that they had the same amount of goals. They were able to set up the assists better, though. The Kings had the ability of playing a much cleaner game and taking advantage of the power play when they had it. So it wasn't even close like we expected. And because of that, the only person that was able to make our 3 stars of the week for the New York Rangers was left winger Max Domi, who switched up teams pretty often this year because he has problems with penalty minutes. He always likes to get aggressive, and we know Vic can be aggressive at times, so it fits his play style. However, it didn't work out this week as Keith Yandel and Nate Schmidt put up over 30 points each from the blue line. Excellent week out of the defensive pair there for the LA Kings and Chris Barnes. So moving on to our next matchup, we have the crappy Vegas Golden Knights that I may as well talk shit on because Chris has been talking shit this whole week and leading up to it. So we've got the Vegas Golden Knights taking on the Minnesota Wild. Who do you think won this week?
I bet on germs. So Minnesota?
My germs. What?
You really want to hear this answer?
Yes. I'm really curious, actually.
Okay, because Knights are from medieval time, and when they went out in the wilds, they usually contracted various forms of diseases, and they died to them. So I'm right by the mic; they can hear me.
So you think the wild one?
I don't know. Yes, I like.
You'd
green.
be 0 for 2.
Oh, okay.
The Minnesota Wild is actually Mac, who is supposed to be our resident hockey expert, quote unquote. And he was the guy that I'm going to dominate. And it has not worked out for him, as you can see here.
We should probably inform your people that if they want me to smack you at any one point in time, I am willing to do this since I was bribed here by coffee and cookies. Like, no shit. He put coffee and Oreo cookies on the table. He knew I would say you're doing this.
And you're not having fun? I know I am.
You're having fun.
So it's funny because Mac was supposed to be our resident expert hockey guy. And it hasn't worked out for him, and he has dropped down to 7-14, while the Vegas Golden Knights are officially tied with the Blackhawks at 15-6.
Well, if he's a hockey expert, why does he suck?
A lot of it's bad luck. A lot of it was guys being hurt early on, and his team just not working out. Why is he picking shitty players then? I don't know. Ask Mac. That's on him. He's the one that said he was going to dominate this league, and
it's got to be like baseball, right? Like you can tell when people are going to be idiots and get hurt because they're cocky as shit and they're going to overextend themselves.
A little bit, but part of it's also the fact that it's hockey, so it's by points, so it's a little bit differently scored.
It's hockey. They throw themselves into glass walls. Like
they don't throw themselves; they get smashed into glass walls.
Therefore, they throw themselves into glass walls.
And yet, your son wants to play hockey. He wants to play hockey.
He could play football. What's this?
Remember what happened in football when you started? Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm not starting anything right now. I'm not doing that. Besides, it's regular season. Anyways, as you can see here, it wasn't even close. The Vegas Golden Knights outclassed the Minnesota Wild, no problem, scoring over a point per start more. And a lot of it was just the offensive ability of the Vegas Golden Knights, not only to set up their teammates, but also to get the puck in the twine. You okay?
I got a splinter.
How did you get a splinter from a clothespin? Those things aren't dangerous. You would find a way to get a splinter. So these two teams played fairly close, but a lot of it was the offensive game and the fact that the Vegas Golden Knights were able to outblock the Minnesota Wild. They played very, very well. And the Vegas Golden Knights are making that final push that they need to get into the playoffs, and hopefully a top-tier spot is what Chris is hoping for. I mean, a lot of it, you showed that the starts are still there, very similar. So Minnesota's been underperforming all year, and it shows here with only John Tavares at center putting up 34 points. And you had right winger Leon Draisaitl put up 36.4 for Vegas, who they dealt for before the trade deadline, I believe for Minnesota as well. So that would be a revenge game for Leon. And then, of course, center Sidney Crosby, hometown boy for Chris, put up 43 points this week. Moving on, we've got the Nashville Predators. So fuck the Preds, since apparently Kevin wants to be that way against his own team today. And the Anaheim Mighty Ducks.
It looks like a derp tiger.
So who do you think won this one?
I'm going to go with the Duckies.
That's kind of obvious, especially considering that Kevin's been hating on his own team. So yes, you got that one.
I'm just going because it's a Disney movie.
It was actually really close. These
Disney.
two,
They're a Disney team.
I know they are. Well, they were.
They are.
That's not their logo anymore.
Disney team.
Yeah, it's close enough. But I have not talked shit because I absolutely went insane for football. So I will say I lost it, and unfortunately, it did not work in my favor. That's why I don't trash talk, because that shit always happens. But anyways, Nashville Predators lost in a very close game. As much as you want to hate me for picking you, Kevin, I did pick you for a reason, because you were right up there with the Anaheim Mighty Ducks. Unfortunately, it does drop you down to 8-13, while the Anaheim Mighty Ducks continue to sit one game behind the Colorado Avalanche. They've been behind them for a game for pretty much the whole year. It's been that way for a long time, and I know Jared's got to be frustrated. But be frustrated no more, as he got the win this week. And surprisingly, a lot of it was the fact that the Preds could not play a very clean game. They were too aggressive, they were too angry, and took 55 penalty minutes in the box this week.
They're from Tennessee, what you expect?
They are what? So they're rednecks? Is that what you're saying?
Look at my family, darling.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't know Mexicans could be rednecks.
Oh, yeah. The white side of my family is actually from Tennessee.
I know that.
Oh, technically they're from Tennessee and Georgia, and they're a bunch of idiots. So.
So this was really close. It came down, when you really look at it, it came down to the fundamentals. The Predators lost by 20 points because of penalty minutes, but also the fact that they were able to put up similar goals, more assists, and yet they still lost. What it came down to was the fact that the Ducks put up 61 more blocks, or not 61 more. They had 61 to 44 blocks. They also had more shots on goal, which adds up fairly quickly. So those are the two categories that the Nashville Predators will have to improve on next year if they really want to get a championship run going. That being said, they played very close class with the Ducks. Very similar points, only 8 points less from their goalies. They actually scored more power play points than the Ducks did. So keep at it. It is what it is. But the Anaheim Mighty Ducks took up the 3 stars of the week board as well. Center Mark Schifele put up 33.4. Right winger Blake Wheeler, who was a surprise to see at the top here with 39.1 for the Nashville Preds. And then, of course, the young star center Jack Eichel put up 41.6 for the Anaheim Mighty Ducks as well. A lot of it was carried by that center group for the Ducks. So here's the other one that I was talking about, the Carolina Hurricanes. It's a little bit better. I like it. It at least fits with hockey. You've got the Carolina Hurricanes on bottom. You've got the Tampa Bay Lightning up top. Who do you think won this matchup?
I'm going to go with the Flash.
It does kind of look like the Flash's logo. Unfortunately, they lost in a close game. They just weren't fast enough to be able to win.
I think what we're learning here is always bet the opposite of what I'm saying.
Probably, yes.
Yeah, okay.
For the most part. So far, it'd be you're 25% right. So yeah, go against it. But they lost in a close game, only 18 points. And so it drops the Tampa Bay Lightning down to 2-19. That's actually Steve's team. He's the one he took over the Tampa Bay Lightning.
And Mr. Steve.
And then you have the Carolina Hurricanes, or the Bunch of Jerks as they are called, at 14-7. Because one of the broadcast teams ended up calling them that during a game one time. It was the way they played, and apparently they celebrated after, if I'm recalling this correctly. They celebrated after they won, and one of the broadcasters from the other team didn't like it and called them a bunch of jerks. So Sean has embraced that and changed his team name to that instead of the Carolina Hurricanes. So, I mean, this one really wasn't close.
At least his team doesn't throw fish onto the ice.
The Carolina Hurricanes actually just absolutely dominated the Tampa Bay Lightning. Not only did they have 8 less starts, but they had 1 point per start more than them. And a lot of it, once again, wasn't even in the offensive categories. Why'd you take it apart? Why'd you take it apart? Did you break it?
Oh.
Yes. But very close by skaters. I mean, this was overall very close around. A lot of it was because of the fact of the start limits for Carolina. And let's break it down with the fundamentals, because I didn't even take a look at this yet. A lot of it, yeah, I mean, close across the board. The fact that Tampa Bay was able to put up 12 power play points while Carolina only had 7 blows my mind that they still lost this game. But the Bunch of Jerks did have 4 game-winning goals, which obviously is great for them. I think that's 1.5 points per goal, so more. So that ended up giving them that advantage. And you'll see here that Carolina didn't really have the dominant week that they needed or wanted, but they still ended up getting the win. The left wingers of Tampa Bay with Artemi Panarin at 26.2 and Jonathan Huberdeau at 26.8 really dominated the board, but right winger Sebastian Aho took home the gold with 29.4 points and our #1 star of the week of this matchup. Then finally, we have the Colorado Avalanche. What?
Oh,
yeah, that's yours, isn't it?
No, it's
it's Mom's set. We have the Colorado Avalanche and the Chicago Blackhawks.
No, that's Stoners versus Chicago. That's how that is.
Okay, so who do you think won?
I have to go with our team since we're from Chicago. But I mean, that's like totally biased opinion.
I lost, unfortunately, by 11 points. It came down to last night.
You know, I could be really mean and do the green white thing. I mean, since you were playing, that kind of makes sense.
Since I was playing?
Yeah. You are a jinx. Okay, I don't care what these people say.
I actually picked against myself on this one.
No. Like, have you told these people of your incredible shitty luck?
Kind of.
Like, he is the worst luck out of any person I've ever met.
Yeah. They kind of know it. It was the fact that I talked shit to Chris during football, and then my team just absolutely shat the bed, and that's why I was pissed that Sunday.
No. Like the lottery ticket things. Like we went out and bought like what, $20 worth of lottery, and I gave like half to John, half to me. Out of his half, won nothing. Out of my half, we won $100.
Yeah,
and it's a consistent thing. I went and picked $5 worth of lottery tickets the other, or what was it, $20? Again, won $500 on that. And this idiot can't win 30 cents to save his life.
Nope, absolutely cannot. I try, but oh well.
To be fair, though, I'm an absolute klutz, and that kind of makes up for it, though.
Yeah, that's true. But I ended up losing this one. Keith has been obviously a number 1 seed, like we talked about earlier in the show. The domination was the fact that they scored a point per start more. That's why it was a dominant thing. The fact that Sean didn't set his lineup until later. But Colorado Avalanche snuck away with one here. Colorado Stoners snuck away with one, moving up to 17-4, while the Blackhawks dropped to 15-6, once again tied with record with the Vegas Golden Knights, making Week 22 that much more important.
They're the Colorado Copycats. That's what you have to call them.
The Colorado Copycats, because they look like the Cubs logo.
That is the Cubs logo that just got put on a goddamn blue, like, mini pyramid triangle thing.
So, quickly, have you seen the old Cubs logo, from like World War II era?
Yeah.
Have you?
My mom used to have a bunch of them like hung up on a wall.
Chicago Cubs logo, Chris Creamer. No, from World War II. It is one of the weirdest logos ever. This one here.
Yeah,
what?
I remember that.
Like, come, rah.
A lot of the team's logos went aggressive because it was war propaganda
I know,
at the time.
I know that, but it's just so fucking out of and it went right back.
The 19, that one?
This one?
Yeah. That one just always looks like he's trying to hide a boner.
It kind of does look like it.
It's like, oh fuck, I've got a boner. Hold on. Let me totally distract you with this bet.
So, like I said, the Colorado Copycats ended up winning, moving up to a league best 17-4, keeping that elusive game away from the Anaheim Mighty Ducks. And what it came down to really was skaters. I mean, both teams had very similar goalie play. Unfortunately, a lot of it came from the shooting percentage for the Blackhawks. They had 32 assists, very outclassing the Colorado Copycats. But look at the 28 goals versus 16.
They have 42 penalty minutes. You would think for a bunch of stoners, they'd be a lot more calm.
You would think so, but they weren't. I mean, that's been Keith's issue with this team all year. His team is always really high scoring, but he usually has 40, 42,
Send them
50.
brownies. That's all I'm gonna say. They
don't need me to send them. They have them already.
Well, then I don't know. Obviously, they're not making them properly.
But it was a very close game. Came down to the last day.
That I deal with at work are really nice and chill and calm. 9 times out of 10, they'll wash my car for me if I ask them. Like, these stoners are obviously not very nice.
No, it's hockey. You have to be aggressive. And it really came down to the winger play for the Colorado Avalanche, with Mike Hoffman and Claude Giroux leading the charge at 38.3 and 34.4 points. And it was kind of a revenge game for Gabriel Landeskog, considering that he likely would have been traded to the Avalanche. It was a battle for that trade, and he ended up with 32.1 points for the Chicago Blackhawks. So now here's the fun part, especially Week 22 matchups. This is the guessing game now. This is the prediction show that I usually do, where I've apparently fucked over Kevin a lot the last few weeks because he keeps saying I think it's going. Unfortunately, I don't think we have any Cubs fans in here.
I don't care.
I know, but I'm just saying it would have been fun to poke fun with it the whole time.
It's the Copycats. That's what they're called, and I expect you to call them that.
I will.
Okay.
So these are the matchups that we have for this week. We've got the Chicago Blackhawks taking on the Vegas Golden Knights.
I think the Knights are going to win on that one.
You think the Knights are going to win?
They have, more advanced technology at least than the Indians would have.
Yeah, but we're more, we're more dominant usually.
You also live in Chicago. Therefore,
Knights move much slower though.
Nope.
Well, I've got my Chicago Blackhawks winning. It's going to be a close one. I don't expect it to really be out of hand for anyone at any point. Chris and I have played really close matchups this year, and this will decide the division for what division are we? I always forget. I think we're the Ed Belfour division. Hockey is one that I kind of forget about.
Shouldn't you?
No, we're the Chelios division.
You should know this.
I forget. I don't pay attention to the divisions much. But
this is your show thing. You should know this.
So next
Please
we've
tell
got.
me you're not the commissioner of this.
Yes, Why would I not be the commissioner if I'm doing all this?
Because you don't know this.
I forget. I do a lot for these. So next we've got the Disney Anaheim Mighty Ducks taking on the Tampa Bay Lightning and Steve.
Ooh. No, that's not Tampa Bay Lightning. That's the Flash's team.
The Flash team. Okay.
Before I answer that, is that the verses from a video game logo?
I don't think so.
It looks like it.
I don't know. Let's say the Tampa Bay Lightning have 2 wins on the season. Do you think they get their third?
I'm going to go with Disney. I love Disney.
That's what I thought. I've got the Anaheim Mighty Ducks as well. Tampa has 2 wins. I don't see them getting the last one. And they will be the toilet team for next year. Because since we don't have draft picks, we decided whoever finishes last in the hockey league has to wear a toilet as their logo for the next year.
That kind of sucks. There's a lot of germs on that.
It's not an actual one. It's just a profile picture. Next, we've got the LA Kings taking on the Colorado Copycats.
Kings.
You've got the Kings. I don't know. It'll be tough for them to win. I'm going with the Copycats or the Avalanche just because they are 17-4 for a reason. They have a good team.
Cats, not Avalanche.
I said both. So, ha. But you've got LA Kings. I've got the Copycats. Then we've got the Minnesota Wild and Mac taking on the Carolina Hurricanes. I expect Mac to be able to step up to this one. I don't think he wants to lose to Sean again. So who do you think wins? Who do you think wins?
I'm going to say the Wilds, but I'm not going to give you my reason.
What's the reason? I want the reason.
You said his name is Mac?
Yeah.
Okay, all I could think of is like during the war when they would have like the little bulldog on the Mac trucks.
Yeah.
And they were all adorable looking, and I really want that.
So she's got Mac winning this matchup with his Minnesota Wild. I've got the Carolina Hurricanes. I do expect Mac to set his lineup, and that is something we should all remind him. And the first pick is not wrong, Chris. We will see. There is no wrong prediction because it's a prediction.
Yes, there is.
No, there's not.
Yes, there is. Obviously, if it doesn't work out next week, then you're wrong.
Yeah, it's wrong then, but at this time, it's not wrong.
It's just, preemptively wrong. He's helping you.
So now it's the New York.
Why isn't he on here? He's more opinionated. He knows hockey.
Yeah, but
he
this
knows.
is fun. You get to annoy me every hour of every day. This is my payback.
I was bribed here.
Next, we've got the New York Rangers and the Nashville Predators, who Kevin already said, fuck the Predators. Who do you think wins?
Obviously, the Rangers.
I'm going to go with Kevin just because I kind of want to piss him off now because I picked him 3 times. And I swear to God, Kevin, if you lose to the Rangers, I will not let you live it down because at this point, if that happens, Mac might be able to steal that spot from you. And I would like to see you actually make the playoffs.
If he loses and then you end up picking wrong on any of these, I'm not going to let you live it down. So, I mean, it works out. To be fair, though, in 15 seconds, I won't remember what I picked.
I was going to say, you probably won't. So now we're moving from the ice to the hardwood. League news for Week 19 for basketball. Really?
I know.
Yeah,
I
you
hate basketball.
I know. That's how.
It's the dumbest, stupidest sport in the history of forever. It should not even be a sport.
I'll have you on for baseball, and it'll be fun. It
is the dumbest, most idiotic piece of shit thing that has ever happened to anyone. And anybody that ever lived in Chicago can verify that this is the most dumbass sport. And yes, I know I've said dumbass like 80,000 times. It was just so fucking dumb and conceited and ridiculous. And a bunch of jackasses stroking their goddamn egos like little kids.
It's pretty much every sport, though. So she hates the Bulls and basketball because she lived in Chicago in the 90s. So Jordan and then people burning down shit and having riots because the Bulls won.
You want to know about Jordan? Jordan was the shit. He used to hang out with my brother.
Yeah, I know.
Fucking asshole.
Everybody knows he's a jackass.
No,
but he was talented.
No, who the fuck? Like, no. Who the fuck? No.
Don't ever meet your heroes then, hon.
I don't think he's a hero. I always thought he was a jackass.
I'm saying anyone you like,
Till after they were burning down half the city.
Yeah, I don't understand.
And it was, hey, yo, that's the idiot that hangs out with Lito.
Back to it. Go have your coffee and cookies.
I'm going to go play Anthem and shoot.
That's fine. So, not a whole lot really to say about basketball recently. Couple of claims. Raptors claimed Noah Vonleh and Kelly Olynyk from waivers last week. Denver Nuggets added Nikola Mirotic, who I was surprised was a free agent. Yes.
You sending me a fun one?
Yes, I will send you one. And then the trade market was actually fairly active this last week. Even though players cannot be traded until after the playoffs, there was a lot of trades going down. A lot of pieces moved, especially picks. The picks have already been swapped. The players will not be swapped until after the championship is over. But it was a lot more active than I expected it to be, especially with how low values were on NBA players to start the year. But that being said, let's look at the current playoff picture that we have going in, and there's a lot that's changed. Obviously, we still have the number one Toronto Raptors. They've been there most of the season, thanks to their all-star studded lineup that they have. And at number 2, we actually have the Atlanta Hawks losing their spot. Yes. What do you want? What? What? We have the Atlanta Hawks losing their number 2 spot and division lead. I can use my fingerprint. There you go. We have the LA Lakers and Chris Barnes finally taking the spot away from the Hawks. I know he's been trying to do that for the longest time. Okay, yes, I will get you a bun, as you call it, a bunny for Pokemon Go if I go out. Oh, my God. So Lakers finally took over that spot. I know Chris has been trying to fight him off. Well, Chris obviously battling. But then we have at number 3, the Denver Nuggets, and at number 4, the Atlanta Hawks. Really, the Atlanta Hawks should be glad that they are in the division they are in because of where they sit. I mean, when it comes down to it, they've been kind of lucky. They've got a good team, but obviously division races matter. Division chances matter a lot. But they are sitting one game behind the Lakers. It's one less win and one more tie. So it's really half a game back. That's it. What, you want me to peel it for you? Well, oh my God. I apparently have a 5-year-old for a wife at times. Didn't even bring a bowl either. I guess I'll just no, that's got to be for that. Obviously, the Denver Nuggets, if they were swapped with the Hawks, they would have the number 2 seed at this point with 108 wins.
Is the owner gay?
No, it's the old Denver Nuggets logo. It's from like the 70s or 80s.
So the owner's gay.
No.
He did a shit ton of cococaine. Like that's how
everybody had rainbows back in the day. Look at the Astros logo from back then.
Shh, don't ruin my delusion.
Obviously, Atlanta Hawks sit at number 4. And then at number 5, we actually have the New Orleans Pelicans, who are 2 games behind the Atlanta Hawks and are looking to move up. And at number 6, we finally have a change in that spot. The Minnesota Timberwolves lost their spot as the Knicks take over. There you go. Your orange is peeled. I'm going to put this on your head in the middle of the night, and you're going to freak out, and I'm going to laugh because I'm going to tell you it's a spider. And then watch the screaming presume. I love the dirty look. I don't care. You actually have the Knicks taking the number 6 seed with 76 wins and 94 losses. That's the best. We've always had somebody be way behind, but the Knicks finally took over the Minnesota Timberwolves, who are still running a hospital at this point. And there's still a lot that could change. Thank you for a piece of orange. I'm glad I need it, apparently. So, looking at last week's... Damn it. I'm all confused here now. Looking back at last week and week 19, we had the Chicago Bulls taking on the Toronto Raptors. As we already said, the Toronto Raptors are number 1 team in the league. It should be expected that they dominated in this matchup, and they went 8 wins, 1 loss, dominating the Bulls as we kind of expected, especially with a lot actually going down between these 2 teams. They'll see how they match up in 2019 and 2020 because of the fact that Joel Embiid got moved and so did a few other names between these 2 teams. So this should be a good rivalry for the next years in the future. This brings the Toronto Raptors to 127-44-0. With the Bulls dropping to 71-97-3. Really what it came down to was we know what the Toronto Raptors are. They're a great shooting team. They're great on the triple-double stats with assists, steals, and blocks. Obviously, they don't care about turnovers. But once again, I don't know why. If you look at the line for this, it had the points scored as a loss for the Toronto Raptors, which it's not because 12 1204 to 550 is clearly a win.
Okay, like look at this. Look at this bullshit.
What?
This is the bullshit that is Chicago sports, though.
What?
Like we suck at everything except for baseball, but we suck.
Except we don't suck at football or hockey either.
No, we suck.
The Bulls have been bad for a long time.
The Bulls suck.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't really care about basketball that much.
But this is just the problem with Chicago. Like the Blackhawks.
Well, it's because you've got Steve running the team. That's why his Lightning are 2-17 or 2-19, whatever they are.
Well, he's stuck, obviously, but
the Bulls did have a pretty good week out of Jrue Holiday, shooting guard. I can't. You don't know how to hold on to a whole lot, do you? And you haven't even been drinking. That's the funniest thing. Looking back at it as I pull it up here, Chicago Bulls were led by Jrue Holiday, who ended up putting up a pretty good week, 91 points, able to put up double digits in rebounds and assists.
Holiday.
Huh? Jrue. That's his name. J-R-U-E.
I heard something totally different.
No, it's not Jew Holiday. Although it would be pretty funny if there was a guy named Jew Holiday. Then you had
Jew on Holiday.
That would be pretty funny too. But you had the Toronto Raptors, actually led by Karl Anthony Towns. I was surprised that he was one that we haven't really mentioned a whole lot, but he put up 141 points. Walk carefully. 66 rebounds on the week was the one that really sealed it for me. I mean, Harden, of course, he's been a great player week in and week out, but Karl Anthony Towns putting up 66 rebounds and 19 assists, plus triple-digit points, absolutely gave him the MVP for this week. Moving on, we've got the Los Angeles Lakers taking on my Dallas Mavericks, obviously run by the real-life Mavericks is Mark Cuban. Loved moving over to this team. Unfortunately, it hasn't worked in my favor in terms of record, as the Los Angeles Lakers dominated 7 wins and 2 losses, bumping them up to 99, 71, and 1, and taking over that Michael Jordan division, while the Mavericks fall to a lowly 47, 123, and 1. Really looking at it, I completely bungled this one because I totally forgot to set my lineup. You can ask my wife. I was working basically 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. at night. It was the last thing on my mind. It completely skipped my mind. You can see it. 5 blocks, 19 steals. Man, it was a terrible week. Just saying that they could ask you. I was working 6 to 9, and the fact I completely forgot about basketball
he was
last week.
bumming on the couch, drinking beers, napping.
Yeah, you wish. I wish that was the case.
Nope, he was not working his ass off, smelly, and then being bugged by his wife who's crippled, and everything else that's going on. Nope, that wasn't the case. Nope,
not at all. But as you can see, my team at least was able to shoot well from the floor. Once again, free throw percentage has sucked, but limited the turnovers, obviously, with the least amount of starts. What? I will get you a bun if that's what you were worried about.
No, I'm hungry.
Okay, then go get something to eat.
Do you want anything to eat?
No, I'm good right now. So, anyways, the Lakers were led by point guard Chris Paul. He had an excellent week for them. 15 turnovers, a little bit high for him, but almost double-digit three-pointers, 22 rebounds, 34 assists, and 66 points. Really led the team just all around, was able to pile up the counting stats. And the shooting percentage was pretty decent, almost a 45% rate for him this last week. And then the Mavericks were actually led by Marcus Morris, who was recently a pickup for them, as he was able to pile up 25 rebounds, only 2 assists, but 42 points. Really a decent week for him, showing the rebounds, and that's what the Mavericks were looking for when they picked him up. Moving on to our third game of the week, we've got the Denver Nuggets taking on the Minnesota Timberwolves. Yeah, it's a Timberwolf.
It's a pretty puppy.
It's not a puppy, it's a wolf.
It reminds me of the dogs that my mom used to be when I was little, and they were just giant puppies.
Yeah. I mean, it would be fun to have a Timberwolf as a pet. I feel like they would get a little bit too big for us, though.
No, they would crossbreed shepherds with the local wolf population. Yeah. And they were giant, and they were amazingly loyal and sweet as fuck if they weren't vicious.
Right.
The vicious ones
if they weren't vicious.
Well, the vicious ones we would just turn loose on the ranch.
Yeah.
But the sweet ones we would just keep, and they were adorable, and they were great. We used them as sled puppies.
Well, that's what this Timberwolf team was. They were not vicious. They were pretty adorable, as they dropped 2 wins and 7 losses.
Oh,
So they really weren't vicious whatsoever. But then again, the Nuggets have been a dominant team all year, and we kind of knew that. We knew the Nuggets were going to win. So they took 7 wins and 2 losses, moving them up to 108 and 63-0. And the best part about that is they seem to be catching up on the Raptors. I don't think it will really matter for the division, but showing they can compete with the Raptors in their own division is still a good thing to do. Jesus Christ. That being said, even though the Nuggets had 7 wins on the week, this really was a close matchup all the way down. I mean, both teams shot very well, not only from the free throw line, but also from the field. The Wolves were actually close to 500 mark, as were the Nuggets. What?
I didn't see anything.
And they were only trailed by 23 pointers, which I was surprised by. They were right there with blocks. They were right there with rebounds for the most part, only about 60 separating them, and only 200 points behind. Unfortunately, their team MVP was Brandon Ingram. You'd like to see somebody a little bit higher there, especially with the talent that they have. And the Timberwolves at least were able – what? This one. If only I had not lied to people about the Hawks.
Oh.
All right. But he was led by Brandon Ingram, which I was surprised was his team MVP. But when you really look at it, he did what he had to do. If I can get back to the right week here. Timberwolves. Ingram. He put up 111 points. Not many three-pointers, but he was able to contribute with assists and rebounds and almost a 600 field goal percentage. I know Keith doesn't say field goal percentage doesn't matter all that much, but the fact that he was able to put up the points, put up the field goal percentage while also getting rebounds at the same time worked out well for him. And then, of course, the Nuggets once again have Luka Doncic as their team MVP. He's been great since he entered the league this year. 76 points, not as many assists as you'd like to see from previous weeks, but adding 24 rebounds was great for him. De'Aaron Fox was another one that was possible because of his assists and rebounds. But overall, I liked what I saw out of Doncic and gave him team MVP for this week. Now we move on to the one where I actually predicted Kevin to win this one. So, Kevin, fuck your Pelicans because I won and Atlanta Hawks lost. And this was actually the matchup that made the Hawks lose that division lead after long enough.
That's a pelican?
Yeah, it's a pelican. It's mixed with the fleur-de-lis.
That looks like a deranged alien that's going to suck your brain out through a tube.
You want to see nightmare fuel.
No, I don't want to see nightmare fuel.
Pelicans mascot.
No. Why are you showing me this? No, don't.
Because it's great.
Stop.
That's the baby cakes thing that I showed you yesterday, and that's the pelicans. But their old one used to be worse. That's what it used to be. That thing looks like something out of Five Nights at Freddy's.
I grew up in Mexico in the South. That's not terrifying. The other thing's terrifying.
That's terrifying.
That's not terrifying.
Yes, it is.
That's just cheap costume design. That's fine.
It's terrible costume design. Although that's pretty scary too.
I think that's just you being overly white.
It's the Nola baby cakes thing.
No, that's just you being overly white.
But we did have the Hawks did lose this matchup, so I did predict Kevin right at least for one sport, with 6 wins and 3 losses for him, which pushes him up to 96, 75, and 0. And within these last few weeks, it may end up that the Pelicans are able to jump over the Hawks. At this point, it really won't matter because they will face each other in the playoffs if the Hawks are not able to gain back that division lead that they had. They're only half a game behind, so it is possible. And looking at it, it really was surprising that the Pelicans were able to win this matchup. When you start at the top, the Atlanta Hawks had a much better field goal percentage. They were able to score a lot heavier, but it just came down to it is not terrible in this. It's fun, at least. You've had fun with this. It started off great for the Hawks with field goal percentage, but then they just trailed in a lot of other categories just by the littlest amount. I mean, you see they had 1 less three-pointer. They were terrible from the free throw line, but when it came down to teamwork and fundamentals, they weren't able to put up as many assists. They weren't aggressive on the rebound, and it really came down to the fact that the Pelicans, even though they didn't have the higher field goal percentage, they put up points when it mattered. And a lot of that was due to Blake Griffin, who ended up being the team leader this week with 78 points, 31 rebounds, and 27 assists, which ended up pushing him over the side. I don't know.
It's my type of friends.
Yeah, I believe it. I mean, we're goofy as hell too. You see my friends for D&D group. And then you have the Atlanta Hawks, who once again had a pretty good week. Had they faced really anyone else, they might have been able to win, except for maybe the Raptors or the Nuggets. And they were led by power forward Aaron Gordon, who they dealt for earlier in the year. And he's been paying off dividends little by little, but this week definitely showed with 38 rebounds, 14 assists, and 74 points. And finally, we have the Charlotte Hornets and Sean taking on the New York Knicks and Vic. I really thought the Hornets would have paid more attention considering their rivalry with Vic and how much he likes to talk trash to him. Unfortunately, the Knicks actually showed up this week, set their lineup, and dominated with 6 wins and 3 losses over the Hornets, bumping them up to 76, 94, and 1. What team?
I don't know. David started posting a bunch of this shit. It's sports stuff.
It's because of the fact that the NBA draft, NBA is coming to a close for the most part this year with regular season and who's going to get what pick. And plus Zion Williamson is a freaking beast. What? Destiny stuff. So the Hornets ended up only gaining 3 wins this week. They are still at 53 wins on the year, while the Knicks actually get 76 wins and move into that notorious 6th seed. And a lot of it came down to the fact that, what?
Shh, I'm oogling over my fantasy husband. Shh.
I'm not even saying anything. You're the one saying shit. A lot of it came down to the fact of pure talent. I mean, we knew the Knicks were going to be a very talented team had they set their lineup, and it showed here. Obviously, they lost in turnovers, as is expected, due to the fact that they had more starts and a hell of a lot more talent. But they crushed the Hornets by over 700, almost 700 points. Way more 3-pointers, and the fact that they just absolutely stacked up everything. Now that they're setting their lineup, I feel like they could actually contend with the Raptors and the Nuggets at the top of the league. What? Destiny? Okay, since you won't actually answer me, you just feel like hitting me for some reason. And you had the Hornets led by shooting guard Avery Bradley, who I legitimately did not know existed. He put up 11 3-pointers on the week, over 20 rebounds and assists each, along with 80 points. Great week out of him. I can say that I don't pay much attention to Memphis, so I did not know that he was a person. And especially with the fact that he's been averaging 30 minutes and only 9.6 points and really not great stats, and the fact that he had a great week for the Hornets. Then obviously, once again, the Knicks were led by point guard Russell Westbrook. Not a whole lot to say with that. We know what Westbrook is. That's a tongue twister that I cannot say for some reason. But over almost 80 rebounds and assists combined with 86 points. What? Are you going to actually answer me or no?
I'm so excited.
Okay, but you're not even answering anything. Jesus Christ. But the Knicks actually dominated and took a win that they needed to try and get into the playoffs. So finally, Week 20 matchups, and I do have this correct for once, and I'm doing this right next to my phone because I can, since you're asking me to do it. There you go. Huh?
That's super mean. You should apologize.
Why?
You're being mean to your people. Apologize. Apologize. No. You're mean.
I'm not being mean. It's a refreshing sound. It's ASMR.
What? Like, you're actually killing their boners with that. Like, that's just mean.
That would be weird if they had a boner for me doing this. That would be weirder than me killing it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Hold on. We know Cameron, who keeps 800 tabs on his phone open of porn at all times.
792, I'll give him that.
And watches porn while he does everything.
I'm sure he does.
So I assume, that's a pretty look. I assume everybody's like that.
No. This group is actually much more tamer than the D&D group, which is weird.
Most of my friends are like that too.
Yeah, I know.
I think our conservative numbers is like 500, because we put this up in chat. Our conservative numbers were like 500 tabs of porn.
I've never even gotten close to that.
Okay, the lowest was 3 that was open simultaneously.
Yeah,
the most was 500.
Jesus. I couldn't do it. Regardless, back onto it. I actually have this right, Chris. You can check in everything. Week 20 matchups. I updated it. I made sure it was right. We have the Dallas Mavericks and myself taking on Chris and his Atlanta Hawks. What? Okay. And once again, the Hawks are in the spot that they're in for a reason. So I see them taking this week. I don't see my Mavericks being able to beat him. I invested a lot into other sports, especially after losing I can't even remember his name. I'm completely stumbling over it now. The guy that I traded, and I don't remember. But I've got the Hawks winning this matchup. Now we've got the Knicks taking on the Bulls. The Bulls are one of the lowliest teams in the league. The Knicks aren't that far behind them, really. But now that the Knicks have actually gotten healthy with LeBron, they've got their lineup actually being set. I've got the Knicks winning this matchup and moving even closer and holding on to that 6th seed even tighter. Now we've got the Los Angeles Lakers taking on the Charlotte Hornets, and we saw that the beating the Knicks were able to put on the Hornets. So I expect the Lakers to be able to do the same in this matchup. So give me Chris Barnes and the Lakers this week. And next we've got the Toronto Raptors taking on the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Timberwolves are still half dead. They've been half dead for the last 2 months. Unfortunately, injuries have not been their friend. So give me the Raptors in the number 1 seed. And then finally, we've got the Denver Nuggets taking on the New Orleans Pelicans. And I was originally going to take the New Orleans Pelicans, but for the sake of Kevin and his sanity, I will pick against him and take the Denver Nuggets because hopefully then my commissioner's curse will end and he can actually enjoy it. It was probably your phone.
That wasn't my phone.
Might have been mine. Yeah, probably because it was the reminder about recycling.
Okay. You know, your commissioner curse is pretty sucky.
It actually didn't curse anyone up until hockey, apparently, the last few weeks, because most ones it's not been a thing for one set team.
I can tell you I agree with all of your picks except for the Pelican. Because that Pelican thing should murder anything it looks at.
Should.
Like, that's the thing that comes out of nightmares, and it's like the Vasilist. Like, you look at it in the eyes, and it instantly kills you.
Now that I look at it, it actually looks like if you were to mix a pelican with a mosquito, and that would just be scary.
I know! And pelicans are mean fucks. Like, they're just
I can't say that I've ever had an experience with a pelican, but...
Dude, they are mean. They terrorized Michael and me when we were growing up.
Yeah, I can't say I'm too surprised. I mean, I'm sure you tortured them as well. So...
We were 3!
So... You're asshole 3-year-olds if you're terrorizing pelicans.
We weren't terrorizing them. They were terrorizing us.
Sure. I know you and Michael, you get into trouble.
Okay, to be fair, we were bred for trouble because Brittany pinched us as soon as we were out of the room. What?
Okay. That's your only excuse. I don't think it really works that way. But that's what we've got for this week. Like I said, look out for the Houston Astros preview later this week. We'll be getting into baseball. I'm ready for full swing baseball at this point. You know me. I've always been a baseball junkie. What? Sanitizer, so what?
I'm not saying I added the baseball schedule for the White Sox to his phone, so that way it would constantly show who's playing what.
Yeah.
And reminders of the day before of, you know.
Oh, I also forgot to post about it. I don't. Where's my White Sox boner?
Oh, yeah.
As I'll call it that. But the wife actually went out to Walmart recently, and apparently she had a fun time arguing with Walmart because one of the perks of being a White Sox fan is getting cool umbrellas like this for $4 because apparently it was necessary. She just happened to be walking by the sports section. The White Sox umbrella was labeled at $4 while the Cubs was labeled at $14.97, and it had been up for 2 months. So she even took a picture, got it for $4, and it's a hell of an umbrella for $4.
Yeah, it's the big span ones, not the teeny tiny ones, but it's actually the bigger ones.
Yeah, and I haven't been able to open it yet. But.
And it's got the like special. It's like the one that the baby has. That it's got the extra water protection on it.
So that way, like if you're really out there for a long time.
Yeah, and it's got like so the wind won't like damage it and shit like that. So it's a great umbrella
for $4.
But here's the funny thing: all the White Sox shit was priced like that.
Somebody would.
No, we went today. To check it out. It was still priced at $4. And then like a lot of like the stuff that for the Cubs was in the teens price.
Yeah.
For the Sox, it was single digits.
I'm surprised you didn't buy anything more.
You would kill me if I came home with more glasses. Where are we gonna put them?
That's true. I do have some White Sox glasses anyways.
Really cute ones though. They were like super adorable cute, and I was gonna get you them.
I'm surprised you didn't, just because I know you like cute stuff. You're gonna do it tomorrow now, aren't you?
You know, I have to go there anyways.
No, you don't.
Actually, I do.
For what?
It's a secret.
That's always you and your secrets.
Yeah, fine. I will get you cute shit. You can just, no, I'm not going to buy you cute shit.
Fine, no bun for you.
You know, I go out of my way to buy you cool White Sox shit. I bought you a nifty hat.
Yeah.
I buy you jerseys every year.
And I bought you stuff too.
You did buy me a coloring book today.
I bought you a lot of stuff over the last while. Dork. But that's all we've got for this week. Like I said, watch out for the Houston Astros preview. I'm excited to talk about Kevin's team. And that's it for everything. You got anything to say before I hang up on this?
I'm so sorry I crashed your thing.
It was fun. I had fun with it at least.
You heard me half ranting.
So? It's fun. The only
fun.
rant you did was on Jordan and basketball.
That's different. Him and my brother ruined my childhood.
There's a lot of people that ruined your childhood.
No, that specifically kind of ruined everything. Like, that was the beginning of the bad with Litos.
Yeah.
Like, you want to hear horror stories of people, like,